after the Bills season wraps up, and hopefully the Bills season ends on a winning note around February 12th. But Bud and I have known each other a long time. I can say, and I'm sure he would agree, that we've really enjoyed doing this stuff for the senior centers.
Absolutely. It's I tell people it's kind of like improv. We're making everything up as we go along. We never know what we're going to talk about going in. Um, we hope once the spring semester starts, if that's the right word, that people will come out and see us, because we
And
have a good time, and you probably will too. The reviews have been pretty good.
yeah, I had a great time, and this will be fun today. I saw we had a question about where was Cole Beasley during the Miami game. Um, they didn't elevate him to the main roster, and they didn't need him. They elevated John Brown, and he caught a long touchdown pass. And now it's an interesting discussion. Do you want Beasley or Brown? I'm more in the Brown camp because he can take the top off with his speed. And by the way, Beasley did drop a pass against Cincinnati that he's got to catch. So um, I'll go with John Brown for the moment. And I saw another question too about Damar Hamlin.
Well, we should probably talk about that at a little length before
Yeah,
we go from here, as we
I
go
would
from here.
I would think so. You want to tell your side first, and then I'll tell mine.
Well, you know, the only comparable incident that I've ever encountered was when Quentin Malarchuk had his throat slashed at a Sabres game. A stray skate came up from Steve Tuttle of the Blues as he was charging the net, and Tuttle and Uwe Krupp got entangled, and the skate flew up and slit Malarchuk's neck, and he was bleeding heavily. And obviously, if he hadn't gotten immediate emphasis on immediate medical attention, he would have died within a couple of minutes. And he got that attention and survived. But I was in the Sabres press box working in public relations then, and it seemed like miles between the locker rooms and the press box trying to get information on something like that, because it's obviously such a serious situation. And of course, adding to my level of panic was the phone rang, and it's Quentin Malarchuk's brother in Calgary, who was watching it on the satellite dish. And he said, he was in tears and frantic, as you can imagine, and just said, how do I get any information? And I said, look, I know he's getting attention, but I will transfer your call down to the locker room and explain who you are if somebody answers. I'm not making any guarantees, but at least that's as close as I can get. And he kind of accepted that through tears, and hung up. And I never knew what the end of the story was. I hope he got information, but obviously Clint came out okay. And to show you what sort of guy Clint was, everyone might remember the story about how when he was getting his neck sewn up, he said to the doctors, could you put a zipper there instead so I can store some pencils or something there? And that was Clint Malarchuk, just a bit of a crazy guy and flighty or whatever, but that affected him quite severely for years. In fact, his book is quite harrowing, and the centerpiece of his life story is that, and the fact that he tried to commit suicide some years later. He just never got over the effects of it, and actually shot himself in the head and survived it somehow, but is doing better now, and has been a very vocal advocate of mental health issues, especially in the sporting area, because no one knows better what these incidents can do. And certainly that's going to be something we'll all have to keep an eye on, Damar Hamlin, going forward. But outside of that, Stu, I think I remember a couple times where guys were taken off on stretchers at Bills games that I was at. I want to say there was a game in Denver where somebody got hurt pretty badly, but it's always been nerve damage where someone couldn't move an extremity or something like that, and it usually was a stinger and it passed away. You're probably in the same class.
Well, I think we're all pretty much in the same class. I was covering spring training when Clint Malarchuk got cut. I landed at the Buffalo airport, turned the game on the radio, and I believe it was Rick Jenneret and Jim Lawrence at the time. And I was like, what happened? What's going on? These guys sound like somebody died. And then I found out what happened, and I saw it, and it was terrifying. And then there was another incident where Adam Benini and I went to cover a Sabres game, and Richard Zednick from the Florida Panthers got cut by a skate. That was frightening. And I was also at the Bills game when Kevin Everett on a kickoff return went down, and the doctors there saved his life. So between the Zednick and Everett, you'd think that you'd seen almost everything. And then unfortunately, we saw DeMar Hamlin collapse on the field, and I didn't see him collapse till they showed the replay, but I did see the trainers and the medical people, and I just knew from their body language and the way they were motioning that this was urgent. But I didn't realize it wouldn't be like anything any of us had ever seen. And fortunately, DeMar is back in Buffalo now, and everyone did an amazing job, from the Bills assistant trainer who started CPR immediately all the way through the doctors. And I want to take my hat off especially to both coaches, especially Sean McDermott, who told Zach Taylor, I need to be with my player. So he recognized that the human being comes first, and that alone makes him, in my book, um, the Time Magazine Man of the Year. Because, how many of these people, Joe Buck kept saying game's going to resume in 5 minutes, and that he didn't pull that out of thin air. So that had to come from somewhere. But thankfully, DeMar Hamlin's doing great. And my guess is, Bud, we'll see him in one of the boxes at the stadium on Sunday. That's just a guess. I don't know that. But his charity has taken off over $8.5 million. His comment when he first woke up was, "Did we win the game?" And the doctor said, "You won the game of life." So as terrible as that was, thankfully he's getting much better. But we got to get a plug in for two people you and I have known for a long time who are having issues. The voice of the Bills, John Murphy, recovering from a stroke. Our thoughts and prayers are with him, and our old friend Pete Weber, who I think you worked with at WEBR, has I think it's a heart issue. He's the voice of the National Predators, and he's undergoing treatment. So he too is in our thoughts and prayer. They're both great guys and far closer to legends, certainly, than me.
We are. Stu, one thing that struck me was I watched a replay of the Hamlin incident, and how fast those guys got out on the field was just amazing. And I know that first responders do this constantly, and the difference, of course, is usually it's not on national television. And to see those guys in action, and we didn't know it yet, but his life was saved probably before we left the field.
Right.
They got to him so fast and restored the heartbeat and all that. But to do it on national television, and the pressure obviously is great enough, and you probably block out the 70,000 fans and the 30 million watching on TV, but just an amazing job by them under the circumstances. And it's great to see Hamlin out of the hospital now, and we're all hoping that he recovers. And Hamlin's probably wondering when he's going to play, and it's like, well, let's take it one step at a time. But we're certainly thrilled by all the progress that he's made.
Does he get a separate chapter in your book that comes out at the end of the season, whenever it ends?
The week will certainly.
Okay. Well, it was
It's a series of 1 and 2 page vignettes, if that's the right word,
okay.
on Bill's history, and this past week from the Cincinnati game through the Patriots game, we'll get a good sized notice. And boy, talk about emotional moments. When the kickoff was returned for that opening touchdown Sunday against the Patriots, it probably wasn't the loudest cheer in the stadium's history, because the stadium used to hold 80,000 and it's now down around 70. So probably didn't match the great years of the glory days of the 90s. But boy, talk about an emotional, thrilling moment for that to happen. And I got the sense too that everyone realized at once that it was okay to cheer for a football game again.
Oh,
That the life and death issues aside seem to be in good shape for the moment. And now let's get back to normalcy and let it out when something happens.
I think you're right. Everybody could exhale. We were breathing deep. We were wondering. We were worried. And then Naheem Hines takes the kickoff back for a touchdown. And as everybody could exhale and realize that very slowly we're getting back to more normal things. And there were a lot of tears around. Well, I can't speak for anybody else, but there were some tears in my house when it first happened. People didn't sleep well. No one should ever see a 24-year-old man collapse like that and have to deal with life-threatening issues. And there was a lot of relief too once that kickoff was returned, because you said, um, back to normalcy, back to a football game that we had to try to win. So um, it's been an amazing couple of weeks, and thankfully Damar is home and doing really well.
Yeah, I think we should give a little credit to the ESPN guys who were thrown into uncharted waters by far when that all happened. And for the most part, yes, Buck got some bad information about the resume in 5 minutes, which is probably someone was just repeating standard procedure in such circumstances. But they talked very eloquently about what goes through their minds when something like this happens. And I thought of something when I was working on the book. We did a story on Kevin Everett's injury, and George Wilson said, whenever somebody goes down on a football game and doesn't get up, my mind immediately goes to that Everett game because I ran down the field next to Kevin and looked up and he was down and not getting up, and it was terrifying. So um, those guys have all kind of reminded us a little bit of perspective, and I know that goes away sooner rather than later, but it's nice that we can turn the page on that.
Well, what I would also like to say, someone pointed out on the comments that because of what happened to Hamlin, you saw a lot of the good in human beings come out, in that there were thoughts and prayers for Damar, no matter what your faith, and money donated to charity. So, out of what was a near tragedy, the good of humanity showed its face, and hopefully, we can see more of the good side of humanity. I kind of feel like everything I've heard about Damar is absolutely incredible. His character, how he deals with people, family, young people. It almost seems like he's some sort of guardian angel sent by whatever being you believe in, down to remind the planet and human beings that this should be our priority, taking care of each other. And it's like he was the messenger of that. And hopefully, um, most of us received it and are willing to act on it. And I think the great majority of people are. Bill's Mafia has always done that. But I mean, getting over $8 million and counting uh, is absolutely beyond belief.
Yeah, who's ever the director of that fund who has to manage the money, who was thinking, oh, this will be an easy job. If we get $2,500, like we have how much to do?
Yeah.
So I know there's an article in the paper which I haven't had the chance to read today on that, but wow, talk about mind blowing. Stu, how do you think the Bills handle the emotions of all this now going forward? They got through the Patriots game, and after the kickoffs or whatever, the game was a little flat, but the Bills eventually just took care of business and were the better team and showed it. Uh, you hope that just things are somewhat back to normal now, and they can focus on games and all that, and not have that incident in the background. But do you exhale a little bit? Do you have a letdown? I imagine that's something to at least think about and keep an eye on.
Well, I would keep an eye on that, but I'm pretty confident in this team, Bud, because they've demonstrated that they are extremely resilient, which, by the way, folks, is the title of Bud's next book. I'm stealing your thunder there. Um, and they've won in any conditions. They've had all kinds of adversity, and the games that they've lost this year, those three, they shot themselves in the foot. All three of those, and that's the way the league is set up. I get that. Games are designed to go down to the last snap. But the first Miami game, they did everything but beat them on the scoreboard. The Jets game, they had a couple of key turnovers. And the second Miami game, they found ways to win that one, maybe with a little help from the snow. but but I'm not really over concerned about their emotional letdown. I think they're a better football team. It looks like Skylar Thompson is going to start. Maybe Teddy Bridgewater will get into the game. Yeah, I'm always concerned because of the way this league is set up. For this kid, Skylar Thompson, could be a once in a career opportunity. So he's going to be extra prepared. And all it takes is one slip, one bounce, one turnover. My mantra, my keys to any game is do not turn the ball over and add, especially in the red zone. I think the Bills will win. The Bills are starting to get healthy. You saw Micah Hyde and Jamison Crowder return to practice this week. And the Bills are as healthy as they've been in a while. And unfortunately for Miami, starting with their quarterback, I don't think they're that healthy. Running back Raheem Mostert, his status, I think, is still up in the air. So the Dolphins are coming in pretty banged up, and I think the Bills should be able to take care of business. And I do think, Bud, and this is just a wild guess, that DeMar Hamlin will be in one of the suites or a box. He'll have his picture on TV waving to the crowd and his teammates at the beginning of the game, and that will give them an emotional lift. But
If not this week, maybe next week.
yeah,
I don't know what the situation is, but
I just think that I hate to I don't like to guarantee wins, and I won't, because, like I said, strange things could happen. A pass is tipped up in the air, interception taken back, and all of a sudden you've got a game. I think the Bills are a better team, and I do think they will win on Sunday.
Well, I didn't see much of the Miami Jets game flipping back and forth from the Patriots game Sunday, Stu, but it's hard for me to believe that Skylar Thompson is the guy to win a playoff game for the Dolphins. If with Tua there, that's a different story, because the Dolphins beat them once and played the Bills quite well the other time here in difficult surroundings. So they probably would have felt pretty good going into a Bills game, playing them for the third time and seeing what happened. But without your two top quarterbacks, it's pretty unlikely. In fact, if anything, that kind of shows you what Purdy's done out in San Francisco, to take over as a backup and guide them to 5 straight wins like he has been an amazing accomplishment. That wasn't he the last guy taken in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant?
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. But that goes to my other things that I always say. Whoever you are, if you're on a roster in whatever sport you're playing at the highest level of the sport, you're there for a reason, and you just never know when that day is going to be your day. So yeah, I think the Bills are better, but what happens if for one day Skylar Thompson for those 3 hours turns into Joe Montana? It, and if he can find a way to get the ball to Waddle and Hill in space, those guys can make things happen. Their speed is unbelievable. So, while everything, all the arrows seem to be pointing in the Bills' favor, I always come up with a cautionary tale of there are no guarantees. So beware of that.
Well, after the long playoff drought that was 17 years or whatever the exact number was, it's kind of funny to have the Bills now as a regular participant in the Super Bowl. And fortunately, I don't think anybody around here takes these playoff games for granted.
I hope not.
They're just sitting back, everyone sit back and enjoy it. But again, Mark Gahn made the point in the newspaper for the Buffalo News, my old coworker. The Bills don't beat Miami. This is a lost season. This is this you talk about must wins in terms of football, and if you lose, the legacy isn't of this particular team isn't that good. And going forward, you've got Josh Allen's cap hit going from 18 million to 40 million, or whatever the exact number is, and that cuts down your roster space and your maneuverability and salary pickups. And the team was designed to win this year, and obviously Von Miller's injury was a big loss towards that goal. But there's some urgency here in this season, and I don't think we should forget that.
Well, losing Micah Hyde was huge. They've had various injuries throughout the year. In my opinion, they need to find a way to sign Jordan Poyer and Tremaine Edmonds to long-term deals. Brandon Beane has his work cut out for him, and he came here with Sean McDermott, and they said sustained success. Well, they've done that. The one thing they haven't done two things: an AFC championship win and a Super Bowl championship. But they have been an extremely successful franchise. And Mark Gaughan made a really good point. If they lose to this Miami team with the third string quarterback, that would really tarnish the legacy of this team, and wouldn't be good for your book either.
I will admit I thought of that.
Well, if your title is resilience and they lose
Yeah,
to the team, you might
right.
come up with another title.
That's right. The
That's
Stu Boyar story.
now, no.
It'd be a lot shorter, but
Yeah.
Stu, other playoff game, Bengals and Ravens comes to mind. And talk about quarterbacks. Doesn't look like Lamar Jackson's going to play. And again, without Lamar Jackson, it's hard for me to think of the Ravens beating the Bengals. And what one thing that kind of got overlooked with the Bengals was Cincinnati scored a touchdown on the Bills pretty easily and quickly to start the game, and looked pretty good the second possession too before the game stopped. And these guys are playing exceptionally well. That jumps ahead a step, but it's hard for me to think the Bengals can lose to the Ravens without, as you put it, some turnovers by the Ravens defense, which is possible. But boy, the Bengals are coming in hot, and I would think that Bengals Bills game, if it happens a week later, is going to be a heck of a contest.
Well, at least it would be here if it happens. That
Mm-hmm.
would work in the Bills' favor a little bit. Um, I remember last year when the Bills, after the 13-second loss to Kansas City, and people were saying, "Oh, we'd have beat Cincinnati," and I said, "You better rethink that, because Cincinnati went into Kansas City and beat them in the championship game and came very close to winning the Super Bowl." So it seems to me a lot of people don't have the proper amount of respect for the Bengals, because they are extremely legitimate. Now, we don't know what would have happened in the game had they played it. And the Bills had a chance to get the number one seed. I think it would have been great to get the bye week, but they didn't. And also, that game, the Bills moved the ball pretty well too on the Bengals. And if not for a Cole Beasley drop, maybe it's 7-7 instead of 7-3. You'll find, Bud, that I'm extremely tough on wide receivers and goaltenders in hockey. So, yeah, that was it a perfect throw? No, but you have to make the catch. So it's fair to say that Gabe Davis has drawn my ire a couple of times this season, at least. But to your point about Cincinnati, they are legit. I don't think they get anywhere near the amount of respect they deserve. Um, the only thing going for the Bills in terms of that matchup is, like the Bills and the Dolphins, it's a division matchup. So the teams are familiar with each other. Um, and I feel the same way about that game as you do. Cincinnati should win it unless Baltimore gets points off of turnovers. Um, it's like even last week when Josh Allen threw the interception in the red zone. All of a sudden, that game has a completely different feel to it. If the Bills score there, I think they pretty much put the game away. But they turn it over and you give the Patriots life, and that's something that the Bills simply cannot do. No team can do that. Turnovers, like I said, that's the bane of any football team's existence. But I agree with you. I think Cincinnati should win, and I think it'll be Cincinnati at Buffalo for a chance to play in the championship game.
Yeah, Josh Allen clearly has to stop handing the ball over to the other teams by interceptions, especially in red zone situations. He's done that a little too much for everyone's liking, and especially his, I'm sure.
And I love the guy. He's a great player. It's just,
Yes.
it's just like if you look at the games this year, the first Jets game, the two interceptions, you take those out, the Bills win the game. Or the first two drives, the Bills drive up and down the field, get two touchdowns. The first Miami game, Devin Singletary misses a block, Josh gets hit, fumbles, Miami scores, and all of a sudden it's a game because the Bills had come out and scored. But there were a lot of other plays in that Miami game too. Matt Milano dropped an interception. He couldn't get the ball to Isaiah McKenzie in the end zone. Josh couldn't, and McKenzie didn't run out of bounds. How's that for a few right off the top of my head? And,
Good
and,
studying.
and the third loss, I still haven't figured out how they lost to Minnesota. It's like, you got to be kidding me. Um, but so far we're on the same page. I believe the Bills and the Bengals will win, and they'll have a showdown at Highmark Stadium. That hopefully the Bills will win.
The other AFC game was not a matchup any of us saw coming because nobody thought Jacksonville was going to be in the playoffs back in early September. But give Doug Peterson a ton of credit to get this team to the playoffs and turn it around. And Trevor Lawrence has done a fabulous job, especially in the second half of the season playing. The Jaguars are going to be pesky, no question about it.
Well, if you're a Jaguars fan, the second they hired Urban Meyer, you should have canceled your season tickets. That was beyond idiotic. We all knew that, especially when you had the first overall pick in the draft at quarterback, and you hire Urban Meyer to coach that guy with a Doug Peterson. I mean, that to me was outrageous. And Doug Peterson's an outstanding coach. He won a Super Bowl. And look what he's done for Trevor Lawrence and that team. And our former Bills wide receiver, Zay Jones, is having a good year, too. Um, Jacksonville's fun. I call the Chargers San Diego because to me, that's where they belong. But that's another story for another time.
What do you do with the Raiders, too?
Well, we know they belong in Oakland, too, but yet another story. And I'm a big fan of Justin Herbert. I think he's tremendous. I'm not a big fan of the Chargers coach Staley. If I was them, I might want to think of getting Sean Payton or even Frank Reich with that Herbert kid. Staley didn't. Like I said, I'm just not a fan of Staley, but it should be a great game. That might be the most entertaining matchup.
I think it has a chance to be, yes.
Just be, and you know what's happened, Bud, is as much as this league is about defense, it's really all about offense. If you get one or two more stops defensively than the other team, you have a chance to win. But most of these teams are going to give up points, and a lot of them, especially that with teams that have really good quarterbacks. Just a thought. It seems like it's all about defense, but it's really about scoring points.
Stu, one quick thought. I was watching the Jacksonville-Tennessee game, and who makes the big play to decide that game but Josh Allen?
Yeah, I know.
I felt like he should put something on the back of his uniform that says the other Josh Allen or something like that, because Josh Allens are clearly taking over the NFL.
Well, the Josh Allen in Jacksonville could say the very same thing about our Josh Allen, really. I did, and I was like, oh my goodness. Maybe it'll be a great weekend for Josh Allen's. Maybe a great month for Josh Allen's, and maybe next month will be a great month for our Josh Allen.
Did you want to jump in, or
somebody jumping in here?
Kitty?
Oh, no. Me, no, but I will say my kids noted, they're not big football fans, my daughters, but they did notice. They're like, wait, there's another Josh Allen? Because they were watching that late game with us.
Well,
pretty funny.
We went to the Jacksonville game against the Bills last year in Jacksonville, my whole family, and we got a really good look at the quote unquote other Josh Allen. So I don't think I'm going to call him the other Josh Allen, the defensive player, not the quarterback. And that Jacksonville team, by the way, I think is kryptonite for the Bills. They ended Kelly's career back in '97. So, if, and these are big ifs, if the Bengals win this week and next week, I would expect them to be playing Kansas City. But if Jacksonville shows up, that's like Superman and Kryptonite. It's like, I don't want any part of that team. Not because they're hot or because they're better than the Bills. It's just, certain teams, for whatever, have it over other teams. Just call it my silly superstition.
Fair enough.
There is a question here in the chat. I think this is going great, by the way. I love the flow.
Well,
but do you think we'll keep Von Miller? Now, I thought he was on a contract, but you guys can answer that one.
He's on a
contracts are unstable in the NFL. You can sign for 12 years and play for one. I'm not sure about what the penalties would be for cutting him and how all that would affect salary cap space. I mean, anyone's vulnerable, I guess, except Allen, really, and a few others. But I think the way it's structured, I would assume he's going to be here at least a couple of years. And I think there'd be too much money to eat to put on the dead cap department if you got rid of him right now.
Well, I guarantee you, if he's healthy, he's back here. I'll go that far on a limb. He's a great player, still a great player. He was having a huge impact before he got hurt, and he's not going anywhere. If he's healthy, he will play for the Buffalo Bills, and hopefully his surgery went great, his rehab goes great, and he's back on the field ASAP. Great player. No, he's not going anywhere. He will be a Buffalo Bill.
So I have a question about him too. Is he on the sidelines? I didn't hear much from him during the whole Hamlin incident, but is he on the sidelines or in the locker room
That's a really good question.
now with the
Oh,
Bills?
being out there anymore, I don't know. I don't think he was mentioned on the broadcast. I don't remember them showing any shots of him, and I don't have an answer for you there, Kathleen.
And we
Yeah, I
didn't
would
hear
think
anything from him either. Usually he's like more like supportive guy.
That's a good point, but to the best of my knowledge, we didn't hear anything from him.
the
Haven't-
injured guys sort of fade into the background. You don't hear what they're doing, or even if in general they're at the game, and you'd think they'd at least be there for home games. I would assume they wouldn't travel except in odd circumstances. So, but it's amazing how the NFL turns the page like that and says, okay, you're irrelevant. You know, you're not going to affect the game, so we're not going to talk about you. And most sports are like that for the most part as well.
You're trying to say they're all about what have you done for me lately?
Basically,
Yes.
the answer to every question is money.
Yep, and that's the God's honest truth.
That's
How
right.
much
Any question in sports, 2/3 of the time, the answer is money.
How much you charging for your book? Is that going to be paperback or hardcover?
I think that one's going to be hardcover.
That's
So
awesome.
start saving now.
Good for you. Do I get a free autograph copy?
You get an autograph copy if you buy one and bring it to my house. I'll be happy to sign as many as you'd like.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to the playoffs because now being retired, I can actually watch all the playoff games. When we were working, it was much more difficult to be able to just watch the other games without being concerned with work. So I thoroughly enjoy the playoffs, and hopefully we'll all be happy Sunday afternoon, right around 4 o'clock.
Or 4:15. These games can take a while.
Yeah, well, hey,
What about the NFC? We ought to go through those games pretty quickly. Tampa Bay and Dallas. It's at Tampa Bay, and we all know Brady can pull rabbits out of his hat when at games ends, because he's done that a few times this season. You'd have to think Dallas is the better team. It's just a matter of proving it.
I personally, I know people are picking Tom Brady, and I've been burned many times in the past by picking against him. He's 45 years old now. I don't think that Tampa Bay team is all that good, and Dallas, I do think, is the better team. Again, I go right to turnovers, and also remember that Dallas was embarrassed in their last game of the regular season, and they've taken a lot of heat for that. Nobody likes to be embarrassed. Will they have an answer for, is it Micah Parsons, the best defensive player in the NFL? I don't think Tampa can control him. I think Dallas wins that one, and it's going to be a lot. It's not going to be as close as many people think. I just can't see Tampa Bay finding a way to win that game. But then again, I'm not a big fan of either head coach. Yeah, I know McCarthy won a Super Bowl in Green Bay, but those two coaches don't really do too much for me. And I'll take the Cowboys. Not being a Cowboys fan, it's hard to do. But I think Dallas is better, and they should win that game, despite Brady's heroics. I don't know how many more heroics he has left in him, put it that way.
Stu, I was just looking at a Twitter graphic in which the top 10 jersey sales among NFL players were portrayed week by week during the course of the season. And it's funny you mentioned Parsons, because Parsons and Josh Allen of Buffalo, essentially flipped 1 and 2 throughout most of the season. And all of a sudden, for the last week, who comes riding down riding up the charts, as they say in music, but Hamlin.
I was going to say it had to be DeMar Hamlin.
He took over the #1 spot for the last couple of weeks. So I hope DeMar gets a nice little check on his own, because he had to renegotiate the fact to get his normal salary back, because then players on injured reserve have to go on half pay normally, but these circumstances they worked out a deal, which was good. Minnesota, the Giants. Minnesota has not impressed me a whole lot. They've actually been outscored despite having a winning record. That's not easy to do. They've won all the close games. You'd think that they would be prime for an upset just because of that statistic, that they haven't been blowing people out and just getting the breaks. I don't know if the Giants are the team to beat them, but I think the Giants have a pretty good chance.
Well, put it this way, immediately two games that Minnesota had no business winning come to mind. First, the Bills game. They had no business winning that game.
Oh,
And by the way, if you're not a fan of Tremaine Edmonds, what happened in the second half when Edmonds missed it? The Vikings ran the ball really well, at least in large part because Edmonds was not in there. I'm a big fan of Edmonds, and I don't think he gets nearly enough credit for being as good as he is. And the other game they had no business winning was Indianapolis. They're down, 33-0, and they come back
yeah.
and win. That's outrageous. That said, you got to give them credit for finding ways to win. Their kickers had a fabulous year. I mean, you could make a case for Brian Daboll being coach of the year. Look what he's look, you say Brian Daboll and Daniel Jones. Coaching matters. It's just like Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson. Um, it really, really matters. So I've always felt Brian Daboll's a great coach for a long time. He proved it this year. Is that a pick'em game? Do you know what the line is on that?
Not sure.
Um,
I try to avoid gambling odds whenever possible.
yeah, well, I'm not a big gambler either. I'm just curious because I saw the bill spread went up to 14. Um, but you know, I could see the Giants winning that game, but I think for some odd reason, Minnesota, like I said, they find ways to win, and I think that'll be a high-scoring affair, and Minnesota will find a way to win that one.
One of my great truisms of sports life, Stu, is that good teams win blowouts. If you let the game go down to the final possession, the bad team has a much better chance of winning. And sometimes you just get the breaks. Last year, the Bills lost all their close games, I believe. Everything under one possession they lost. This year, they've had a better record, so they're 13-3. So Minnesota feels a little weak in that sense, but they've still managed to win, and you have to give them credit for getting that done. It's just a matter of how do they rank on the whole scale. The last game, San Francisco, Seattle. We talk about quarterbacks, of course, because it's a quarterback league. But Seattle with traded Russell Wilson and got Geno Smith out of the scrap heap, almost literally. And he had a much better year than I think anybody thought he was capable of doing.
Well, I totally agree with you there. I just think this is one of those situations where San Francisco is just better in every phase of the game. But you are right about Geno Smith. I thought he was done a long time ago. It was disappointing. I believe he came out of West Virginia and never turned into the player that he expected to be. Got to give Pete Carroll some credit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember seeing, I think it was a Monday night game last year where Russell Wilson got hurt. They put Geno in, and I was like, man, he was way better than I ever thought. He bounced around the league for a while with the Jets, I think, a couple of other teams. And all of a sudden he's in Seattle and he finds a home and he played really well. I don't think he'll be able to beat the Niners. That's, in my book, certainly among the Super Bowl favorites, right up there with the Eagles and Kansas City. And, Seattle's the team that just made the playoffs, barely. They beat the Rams in overtime to get into the playoffs. So of course it could happen. What if Brock Purdy turns into Mr. Irrelevant and goes Nathan Peterman on him and throws 5 interceptions? So it could happen. I just don't see San Francisco losing to Seattle, and that might be one of the games that wouldn't be close and wouldn't come down to the final possession.
Well, the 49ers have been playing really well. I think it's 10 wins in a row going in, and Seattle will probably have the "it's great to be here" feeling. Hey, we're in the playoffs. Okay, our season's made. What do we have to do now? But if the 49ers had one of their two regulars, and Garafolo was playing well when he got hurt 5 games ago before Purdy took over, boy, they would be a great choice, little under the radar, to be a Super Bowl winner because they're just playing so well. I don't know if they can do it with Purdy in that position, but they've really compensated extremely well. Great coaching job out there.
Well, and year after year, Kyle Shanahan gets that team, if not at the top of the division, near the top of the division, and they make deep playoff runs. So I think they lost at Green Bay. No, they beat Green Bay last year at Green Bay. You would know that because your friend is the GM of the Packers. Sorry to bring up
Let's get that right.
Yeah, and he couldn't have been happy Sunday night.
No.
But we all saw that Detroit team is not a bad team. They're good and getting better. But back to the whole Seattle-San Francisco game, I just can't see San Francisco losing that. Purdy gets another W on his belt, and San Francisco moves on. I can't see Seattle winning that game. Once again, I'll make my point every game unless they turn the ball over a lot, and Seattle finds a way to take advantage of the turnovers. That's my look on the playoffs.
Katie, anybody have
All
any
right.
questions for us or what have you?
We do have a question here about the stadium. You guys have any thoughts on the new stadium? I always wonder why we don't build a stadium with the ability to close the top.
What was the answer to 2/3 of the questions, Bud?
Money.
Yeah. Well, I
Right.
don't really know. I mean, listen, we had a game moved because of a tremendous snowstorm. You know, it's funny. People in Buffalo, did the people in Cleveland get the same arguments? Pittsburgh, New England, Philadelphia. These cities have winter weather too, and yet we're the only one I hear about. Oh, we need to build a dome. Would a dome have been nice? Sure. Would its downtown stadium been nice? Sure. But they're getting a new stadium, and I think that's the most important thing. Um, I don't know. You know, if you look at the Bills the last 2 years, they played at Detroit, and each year they lost a key player to injury in an indoor game. So, you know, lost Tre'Davious White last year, Von Miller this year. So, other advantages to a dome? Probably. Um, Maybe you could do more things than just have a football game. But to me, I'm not. I'm
It is
not
a big space.
I'm not overly disappointed that there's no dome there, but I don't believe for a second that the elements are any kind of big help because both teams play in it. I think rain is the great equalizer, and if you're going to have something, you really want snow. That said, I'm just happy they're building a new stadium. I mean, you could make arguments for a dome in downtown, and they're all valid and interesting arguments. But to me, the most important thing, and I still love Highmark Stadium. It's a great place, great history, great sight lines. It's just a little too old. I'm just happy that they're getting a new stadium.
Well, I argued loudly that Buffalo should have a dome, that in this environment it made little sense to do that. In part, you could keep the facility better maintained. The wear and tear of an outdoor stadium, I would think, in Orchard Park is extreme with all the freezing and thawing and snowstorms on that. And I think there's a myth about Bills fans that they show up in full every week. And a year ago, the last two games, which meant something in the standings, the place was barely half full. The tickets were bought, but people chose not to go. And I wondered if you put a dome on, whether the people show up more readily and that aren't willing to sit outside and fill the place, and the Bills make more money that way. Anyways, I'll also say that the schedule keeps creeping later and later. We're down to, there used to be mid-January for the Super Bowl. It's now mid-February. And there is more chance of bad weather games being played in Buffalo under bad conditions. And this year might have been a good reminder of that. And so we're going to have to get used to it. And that becomes a big part of the situation. You're going to have days like the Miami game is even a less extreme example because you obviously couldn't have played the week or they moved the Browns game to Detroit. But this is going to come up more and more, and we won't even talk about climate change. But it's a little scary, and I'm just not sure whether going the cheap way out, which the Bills apparently advocated, and the state at the thought of not spending an extra $200 million said, great, we'll go on with the cheaper plan. It just didn't add up to, the whole thing didn't add up to me, but clearly I was outvoted.
Well, bad weather games look much better on television, for whatever that's worth, and people remember them. Now, who doesn't remember the game against the Colts in that snowstorm?
I was there.
So you remember that game
In the stands, and I didn't see it. It was down there, but
I remember a Thanksgiving Day game, I think it was Green Bay and Detroit, that was played in the snow before the Lions moved into a dome. Domes get so nondescript. They're all domes. They're all alike. It's like the new hockey arenas. Back in the day, the hockey arenas had personality. The Aud for the small ice surface, Boston Garden, Chicago Stadium, and the Oregon. Now all these arenas are all the same. It's the cookie cutter approach that baseball took before they finally got back into, the stadium in Pittsburgh, which shows off the city's skyline. These stadiums now have personalities, and to me, domes are all pretty much the same. So, like I said, I'm just glad they're building a new stadium, and hopefully we'll have a chance to get into it. And hopefully by then, the Bills will have won at least one Super Bowl championship. That's what really matters.
I'm with you on the new stadiums too.
Okay, well, at least we agree on that. I'm sure we could have some interesting discussions on climate change since you brought it up.
All right. Speaking of stadiums, do you guys know where would the neutral site be for a potential championship game?
I was thinking about that. Indianapolis is out. They have a big volleyball tournament. Speculation from someone.
It must be a big volleyball tournament.
Well, they've got like 30,000 people coming to Indianapolis. Now, if you're in NFL City, I don't understand why you would book something the weekend of the AFC Championship, but good for them. Speculation was Atlanta, because apparently that's equidistant from both cities, which I didn't know, and I don't know if that's true. I heard that on the radio yesterday. Detroit is out because they're getting a new turf. I don't know. The JMA Wireless Dome in Syracuse is probably not neutral enough for whoever, if the Chiefs are in the game, because that's a little too close to Buffalo. So yeah, I heard Atlanta. It's a dome, and that's what I've heard. I don't know if you've heard anything different, but
No, I haven't. I've been waiting for news on that, and I just heard that Detroit and Indianapolis were out, and they're all kind of sitting around. I know it's a little complicated to try and come up with something favorable for everything, but then again, there's no great urgency as of right now. Next week, there certainly will be when people start looking ahead.
and we don't.
Again, it's a whole new discussion because the situation's never come up before.
And I can understand the Bengals being a little upset, because in their minds, I'm sure they thought they had a really good chance, certainly at the second seed and also at the top seed. And they beat Kansas City, and had they beaten the Bills, well, you just never know. But it'll be interesting. I don't want to start looking too far ahead, and I don't want the Bills to look ahead at all, to be perfectly honest. I want them to take care of business with Miami, and then we'll figure out who's up next on the Bills hit parade. That's the way I always look at these things.
Stu, your old boss, Ed Kilgore, once said he was sick of football coaches talking about taking games one at a time. He wanted a football coach to come out and say, we're going to play them 3 at a time from now on.
Ed had some great lines, and some I can't share with you, but he did say, delay is the deadliest form of denial, which I thought was a good one. He had another one about a certain way to write an email with a strong word or two, and then another line that would say strong letter to follow. So Ed certainly had some great Edisms, as we'll call them, and he's back writing a column on his Facebook page, and they're very good columns, and I'm glad to see them. He's working, I think, for WECK Radio, so Ed's a really good guy.
Okay.
So yeah, hopefully, like I said, the Bills take care of business this weekend, and we get ready for another game next weekend, because as you pointed out, Mark Gahn pointed out, and we all feel it, if they don't win this game, it's a very disappointing way to see the season end. And my concern is, I get very nervous when all the arrows point toward one team and everybody picks one team. That makes me nervous. I'm a little on the superstitious side. It's like when a guy trots out there to kick the game-winning field goal. He's made 9,000 kicks in a row. Put the graphic down, because you're going to jinx this kick. I told you my story, Omar Vizquel, didn't I? I'm a big Cleveland baseball fan, and at the time they were called the Indians, and they're playing the Orioles in the playoffs. Now, Cleveland eventually won this series, but they put this graphic up and says Omar Vizquel has handled 1,297 chances in a row without an error at shortstop. What do you think happened on the very next pitch? Ground ball, and he throws it away, and they go on to have a 5-run inning. And I'm like, and I'm sure other fans of other teams in any sport have seen that for whatever player or team they follow. It's just mind-boggling. So, now they call it the announcer jinx, and they allude to it. Well, just don't do it. Wait till after the kick. That's his 10,000th field goal in a row. Great. I don't need to know that he's made 9,999, because most of us know that most of these kickers are pretty good, or they wouldn't be there.
Stu, you made me think of in '75 in basketball, the Final Four, Louisville was playing Kentucky. Louisville was playing UCLA, excuse me. And Louisville was up 1 with like 12 seconds to go. And the free throw shooter stepped to the line for Louisville with a chance to make it a 3-point game, which was with 12 seconds to go in those days before the 3-point shot was insurmountable. And the graphic said he has not missed a free throw this year. And he was like 21 for 21. He hadn't played that much. And he missed the free throw. And UCLA went down, scored, won the game, and then the next game beat Kentucky to win John Wooden's 10th and last championship. So, yeah, I'm sure the announcer jinx weighed heavily on him, even though he didn't know it at the time.
Goes back a long way, but it's a very dangerous jinx. It's almost as dangerous as Keith Smart in '87 when a team forgot to drop back and play defense because they thought they had the game won. That's a Syracuse reference. Bud and I are both SU graduates, class of '77. And, it's funny. A couple of years ago when Syracuse was playing at home, a football game against North Carolina State, I went with Ben Hayes, a friend of mine who used to work at Channel 2. And he'd kind of asked, do you think you'll run into anybody at this game? And I said, well, my guess is if I'm going to run into anybody, and I'm betting that I will, we'll see Bud Bailey. And about 10 seconds later, I look up, and there's Bud and his wife, Jody. And I'm like, well, there you go, Ben. There's Bud. I told you he'd be here.
I don't think I've been to a game since then because I didn't know you were coming. So we got to coordinate our schedules.
I haven't been to a game since then either. And that was a fun game, like 52-44, and they actually won it. But yeah, I guess like everybody else, I'm just really looking forward to the playoffs this weekend. Obviously, the Bills game, numero uno on the hit parade, but I look forward to the other games too.
It has been a terrific regular season. There have been more memorable games and comebacks than in a season than I recall. You can't quantify something like that, but it's been a thrill ride for practically everyone.
Well, and that's well, first of all, I love the title of your book, Resilience. And what this team has shown is they can overcome just about anything and find a way to win. I mean, they've shown championship caliber in that they faced tons of adversity. 3 games in 12 days, whatever that was, they won all 3. The Damar Hamlin situation, thank God he's doing really well. But they've just found all kinds of ways to win games and overcome adversity. And that is what championship teams do, which is what gives me a lot of confidence for Sunday. Despite the fact that, all those arrows point to Buffalo, that helps in the confidence, but I want to walk carefully there. We'll put it that way. And we haven't mentioned it all, have we? Are we supposed to?
Because Cincinnati, Kansas City, and an NFC team would theoretically await, and that's going to be a tough hill. But somebody always climbs it.
Well, weren't the Bengals a wild card team last year? They beat Tennessee and they beat Kansas City.
Might be.
And, they beat Tennessee in Tennessee because Ryan Tannehill turned the ball over 3 times. They were the top seed. And then they went into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs. And just before halftime, Andy Reid got a little greedy, which was unlike him. I think Patrick Mahomes talked him into it. They went for it on the 4th down because they thought they could find Tyreek Hill for a touchdown, and the Bengals stopped them. And then Cincinnati came out and smoked them in the second half. So that's why I say I don't think the Bengals get enough respect. They are legitimately really, really good. Joe Burrow fabulous. And boy, do I wish the Bills had a couple of speed guys like he's got at wide receiver. That Jamar Chase, oh God, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, they're fabulous. They can all fly.
Well, Kitty has advertised we managed to talk for an hour.
Perfect. I was just looking at that. So yeah, I mean, I could listen for another hour, but guys, thanks so much for joining
Thanks
us
to all who
today.
tuned in, and we appreciate it. And we'll be around in the spring and I don't think you have to be a senior to visit the senior center to hear us.
Well,
Anyone's welcome.
and thank you, Kathleen, and thank you everybody who joined us. Any other questions before we go? Editorials, perusals, comments? I took that from
I
one of
do have a comment here from Evan. You guys are legends in my book.
well, thank you.
Thanks for the great talk today. See
Thank
you again. Let's go Bills.
Well, we love to go Bills. Thank you for that compliment. We really
Must be
appreciate
the gray hair.
Oh, here's another comment from Bob. Comments, on Georgia TCU.
As expected, I think it went about as everybody expected it would. Although, Stetson Bennett's, what's he, 25 years old? Still playing college football?
Tony Kornheiser said he gets his AARP card next week.
That's a great by Tony.
When you think about
All
it,
right, I'll check here. I don't see anybody's hand up, but if someone wants to raise their hand and ask a verbal question, I can unmute you. We'll give you a few minutes to look into that.
Stu, it is impressive that Alabama was a power for years and years and years, and in their own conference now, Georgia has gone by Alabama, at least temporarily, to be the best football program in the country, and they're just dripping with talent. What they have, 13 players drafted last year or whatever it was, and they come back and win it all again. It's amazing what they've done down there.
Yeah, you described them correctly, a powerhouse, and they never let up ever.
Oh.
That's why
65-7, I guess not.
Yeah, so I guess you got to give them credit for that. I mean, why should they let up? If TCU wanted to stop them, well, they had to stop them, and they couldn't. So why let up?
Right. Okay, that should wrap it up. Thank you, guys. If the Bills do, and we don't want to look ahead, but let's say we look ahead and we're going to be playing in February, maybe we'll give you a shout out to see if we can gather again before that.
That would be wonderful. We hope that happens.
Right.
We're cheap.
And easy.
All right, awesome, guys. Go Bills. I'm looking forward to the game as well.
So are we. Thank you, Kathleen. And thank you, Bud.
See ya. Bye.
Bye, everybody. See ya, Bud. Great job as always.
My pleasure, Stu.
All right. Take care, my
Be in
friend.
touch.
Yes, we'll do that. Got to roll.